Hello and welcome to the channel. For today's tutorial, I'll be sharing with you how I created a high-low basque for an underbust inbuilt corset. So you can also create this for a corset and also for a bustier dress. So I also went ahead to just create a slight high-low basque, so you can decide to make yours deeper if you wish to. So if it's your first time viewing my channel, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. So here is my pattern. I've gone ahead to place it and I added half-inch round. So added half-inch at the neckline and at the joining shoulder part. I went ahead to cut out wording, gum stay and lining for this part, and I also did that for this, but this is on fold because it's the center piece. You can go ahead to cut it and join it back. Moving to the other side, I went ahead to add half-inch, and on this side, so please, when adding your half-inch, do not add half-inch by the side because we've added sewing allowance to the part of the side, but round it you're going to add half-inch and joining allowance. Now first we'll be working on the cup side. I'll go ahead to open it, and this is what I have. So I placed my pattern and I cut out the centing for the gum stay and wording. So this is the wording. What I'm going to do is just to go ahead to iron it. So I'll also place the lining on the gum stay and I'm going to go ahead to iron it too. So going to the upper part of my wording, I'm just going to trim out like half-inch. So the reason why I'm doing this, so that by the time I sew, it doesn't become bulky. Going over to the side pattern, this is what I have, and I'm going to open it up this way. So what I will do is to place this way, and I'm going to take the other one to place. So I went ahead to cut out wording for it. So I didn't show how I cut out wording for this video, but I have videos where I cut out my wording online. So what you're going to do right now is to place your wording underneath your fabric. Make sure you place the shiny part of the wording facing the wrong side of your lining. With that way you're going to iron. So if you're using a thick wording, it's advisable to trim out half-inch on top to avoid the upper parts being bulky when you're sewing. So I'll go ahead and place this, and I'm just going to join with half-inch. To join with half-inch, you're going to take it after ironing it, place it this way, and for this other side you're going to place it this way. So you're going to repeat the same process also for your lining after you're done ironing your gum stay on it. I'll go over to the sewing machine and I'll stitch this. So after stitching it, this is what I have. So we're going to start working for the lower part of the dress. So I'm going to go ahead to open up my pattern. So when you're doing this, you have to be careful so that you don't mix up the pattern for another side. Sorry, I might be brief when explaining this because the main purpose of this tutorial is to create a high-low basque for a dress. So what I'm going to do is to unpin this back pattern and I'm going to go ahead to join it. So I'm going to separate each part for each, and I'm just going to join with half-inch at both sides. So for the lining part, I'm going to be ironing gum stay to it. It's very important to iron your gum stay to give this dress strength, especially when you're snatching or dragging your loop or eyelet at the back of the dress. So after placing it, I'm just going to join it with half-inch. So I have 4 pieces in front and I'm going to be sewing with half-inch to join the 4 pieces. So I'm done joining the pieces for the front, and this is what I have. So next I have these pieces and I'm going to use it to create a boning channel. It's about 1.5 inches. I'm just going to place it first and I'm going to sew with half-inch. Then I'm going to, after sewing with half-inch, I'm just going to flip it with half-inch inside and I'm going to top stitch. So note, your boning channel is according to the size of boning you're using, and we're using a reddening boning for this. So I'll go ahead to create the boning channel as many as you want and as the pattern that you like on your dress. So for my dress, I went ahead to do something very simple, and this is what I have after creating my boning channel. I'm going to go ahead to trim off the excesses that I have. So next, I'm going to bring the lining part of this dress. So this is the lining part, and this is what I have. So I'm just going to place this on it, the right side of the material, and I'm just going to stitch with 1/2 inch at both sides. After sewing, this is what I have. I turned it up with the lining, so I didn't sew the upper and the lower part of this dress. So next step, I'm going to fold it into two, and I'm going to notch it to find the center. We are going to repeat the same process for the upper part also, just to notch it. So I did that. So what you're going to do is to place the notched part meeting the notched part, and you're just going to place it and stitch with 1/2 inch at both sides. So after sewing it, this is what I have, and this is what it looks like. So now it's time to attach the yoke to the dress. So I'm just going to unpin my yoke. I cut out 2 pieces for the neckline, and I'm going to stitch the upper part with 1/2 inch. So after sewing the neckline, this is what I have. So I'm going to trim out the excess I have at the neckline to give it a neat finishing. So after sewing, I'm just going to flip in, and this is what I have. So right now, I'm going to attach it with 1/2 inch to this front part. So I'm just going to take it this way, and I'm going to sew with 1/2 inch round the neckline. So after sewing, this is what I have. Next step is to turn it up with lining for the back part of this dress. When I was sewing, I went ahead to trim off the neckline of this dress to make it 3.5 inches to avoid it being too tight or choky at the neckline. So what I'm going to do next is to take this lining this way, and I'm going to face it towards this way. So I'm going to make sure it meets at the center, and at the joining at the bust side meets. So you can go ahead to sew, or you can go ahead and pin it if you're finding it difficult. So I'll just go to the sewing machine, and I will sew it with 1/2 inch to this point. So after sewing with 1/2 inch, what you're going to do is you're going to take it, turn it this way, and you're going to tuck in everything you have on the right side inside this way. So the reason why we're doing this is to have a neat finishing at that point. So just like I said, you're going to tuck in everything inside, and you're going to sew with 1/2 inch. So let me repeat it again for clarity's sake. You're going to take this, and you're going to tuck it in till you meet that point you joined it at your underbust, and you're going to sew with 1/2 inch. So if you're confused in any part of this tutorial, please don't forget to leave your question at the comment section. So after folding it, you're just going to sew with 1/2 inch, and you're going to leave the armhole area open, but you're going to be turning it from that part. So after I'm done sewing, I'm just going to bring it out from the armhole. So it might be a bit difficult for you at this point. You're just going to do it gradually. So after turning it out, this is what I have. This is what the front pattern looks like. So this is what I have. So I'm going to go ahead to cut out the excess I have at the armhole. So after cutting that out, my front pattern is ready, or the front part of my dress is ready. So this is the front. Next we'll be working on the back pattern of this dress. So on the back pattern, this is what I have. I went ahead to add 1/2 inch round. So next thing I'm going to do is to work on the neckline at the back. So I'm just going to place my lining this way, and I'm just going to stitch it with 1/2 inch at the part that is going at the center. Going over to the lower part, I'm just going to separate my pattern. So first I'll be sewing one side, and I'll be doing the other side later. So my main fabric for the back is this bridal satin that I'm using. So you can go ahead to iron stay to it. And for the lining part, I'm going to iron gum stay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to join it this way with 1/2 inch for the main fabric, and I'll iron gum stay to the lining and also sew it 1/2 inch at the back. So I've gone ahead to join the back, put the lining, and I iron gum stay to the lining. So right now you're going to create a boning channel just like I did for the front. So I'm just going to create only one at the back. So I've done that right now. I've created the boning channel. So what I'm going to do from this part, so remember at my pattern I added 1/2 inch for turn up. So I'm just going to mark out that 1/2 inch, and on that 1/2 inch, that's where I will be placing my loop for the lacing bar. So after marking it, I'll go ahead to connect all the lines, drawing a straight line. So what I'm going to do next is to come down by 1/2 inch, because that is my sewing allowance or joining allowance for the upper part. So this is a loop that I created. I'm just going to fold it into 2, and it's about 2 inches, and I'm going to place it on the line. So what I'm going to do is to place my tape, and I'll mark 1 inch interval for my loop. So I'm going to mark it from the beginning of my pattern to the lower part. So after marking it, what I'm going to do is to take that loop and I'm going to place it. So I'm going to place it facing inwards, and I'm going to pin it. So I'm going to continue this process for all of them. So after doing this, what I'm going to do is just to go over to the sewing machine, and I'm going to sew. So I'm just going to place it on that 1 inch interval just like I said. So after I'm done sewing it, this is what I have for the loop area. By the time I turn it with that 1/2 inch, I'll be having it this way. So what I'm going to do right now is to attach the sleeve or the shoulder part down to this dress. So remember, in my pattern I measured 1/2 inch before attaching to the shoulder, and I have 1/2 inch also for sewing allowance. So because of that, I'm just going to mark 1 inch away from that center part. So after sewing it, this is what I have. Next, I'm going to flip it inside, and I'm going to place my lining the right side facing the right side of this fabric, and I'm going to put the sleeve part inside. So what I'm going to do right now is to sew with 1/2 inch round this. After sewing, this is what I have for the back, and if you notice, I didn't stitch up the lower part. So sorry for the background noise, it's actually raining here. So back to the tutorial. After this, I'm just going to measure about 1/2 inch, and I'm going to sew. So this depends on the type of boning you're using, the size of boning. And also, if you're making use of an eyelet, you're just going to make a double stitch at this point, and you're going to create a space for your eyelet. But since I'm not making use of my eyelet, I'm just going to sew about 1/2 inch at that part, and I'm going to be passing my boning through it. So next up, what you're going to do is you're going to pass your boning to it to the end. So this gives strength to the lacing bar when you're lacing the dress for there not to gape. So after that, also you're also going to pass your boning to this other boning channel that you created. So next up, I'll be joining the upper part of my dress. So to join it, I'm going to place the shoulder together this way. I'm going to take the back, and I'll place it at the front, and I'm going to take the back and I will use it to wrap the front neckline, the front shoulder, sorry. So after doing that, I'm just going to stitch up with 1/2 inch at the shoulder. So I'll do this for both sides also. So after sewing, after joining my shoulder, this is what I have. So I cut out this basic sleeve of the camera. Is a mesh that I used for the yoke part. I'm just going to attach it to the sleeve. To attach it to the dress, I'm just going to open it up this way, and I'm going to make sure the center touches the center of the sleeve, and I'm going to sew with 1/2 inch. So I'm done joining the sleeve. Right now it's time to shape the dress, so I'm just going to pin the sides together. After pinning it, now it's time to place your measurement. You're going to place it at the shoulder, and you're going to mark your shoulder to underbust. You're going to check and make sure it stops at that your underbust. So after that, you mark your shoulder to bust line, and then you place back your tape and you're going to mark your shoulder to waistline. Now, to insert your measurement, you're going to measure what you have at the center this way. You're going to shape it with the bustier method. So measuring the center, I have 7 inches. So my bust circumference is 33. 33 divided by 2, I have 16 and a half. So what you're going to do is 16 and a half minus that 7 inches you got at the center. So what you'll be having is around 9.5. So that 9.5, you're going to share it at both sides of your bust. When I mean sharing the 9.5, I mean dividing it into 2, and you're going to mark it at both sides of your bust. So going down to my under bust, I'm going to measure what I have at the center. So what I have is 6 inches and my under bust circumference is 28. So 28 divided by 2, I have 14 inches. So that 14 inches, you're going to minus what you have at the center from it, which is 6. That's 14 minus 6. You have 8 inches remaining. So that 8 inches, I'm going to share it at the remaining part of my dress at both sides. So next, we are going to move down to the waist, and at the waist you're going to insert your waist circumference, just the usual method of shaping your dress. So going down to the lower part of your dress, you're going to insert your hip circumference, but when you're inserting it, it's advisable to remove 1 or half inch from your hip, because if you notice, we added half inch in case we have shortage. My hip is 40 divided by 2, I have 20. So instead of me marking 20, I'm just going to slightly mark probably 19 and a half or 19 inches. So after that, I'll go ahead to connect my line, and I'm going to sew it, and I will insert my armhole circumference at that point. Whatever I have at my armhole divided by 2, I'll mark and then extend it down to my sleeve. So after sewing, this is what I have. This is what my pattern, this is what my dress looks like. So next, I'm just going to fold it into 2 to cut out the excess I have at the lower part. So I'll go ahead, mark it out, and I'm going to trim it off with my scissors. So I'm done, and this is what I have. So right now, I'm going to pass my boning through my channels, and I'm using a regining or sewable boning, because you're going to top stitch or sew on this dress later. So when passing your boning, you can go ahead to tape the mouth to avoid poking the person that is going to wear the dress, and pass your regining boning, especially at the lacing bar, to give it strength, especially when you drag it at that point. So at this point, if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, please hit on the subscribe button, and don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. So after passing it, next thing, you're going to wrap up the edge or the ending part. So I have about 1.5 inches strip. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place it, and I'm going to sew with half inch. I'm going to sew with half inch to the end. So after sewing with half inch, I'm going to fold it in this way and top stitch it and fold it with half inch again at the back. So after I'm done sewing, this is what I have, and if you can see, the inside is very neat. So next, we'll be working on the skirt pattern. So here is my skirt pattern. I don't have enough fabric to work with, so I just went ahead to cut the exact skirt length, and I added lining to it. So I sewed with half inch round. I repeated the same process for my back, added zip and shaped the skirt. So after I'm done sewing for both the upper part and the lower part, the next thing you're going to do is you're actually going to wear this dress. You're going to lace it up. So if it's your client, the person has to wear this and then go ahead to wear the skirt before you can go ahead to create this high-low basque on the person. At my zipper side, I just attached it just like your normal zipper, and that's just that for that. and I'm just going to go ahead to wear this. Since I don't have anybody to do it for me, I'm just going to go ahead to create it on my body. This might be a bit difficult. It's better for someone to wear it and for you to cut it out. So since I don't have anybody to do that for me, I'm just going to do it by myself. And if you notice, mine is just simple because I can't really cut it on my own. I need to cut it on somebody's body. So I'm just going to go down with the length I'm okay with. I don't want something too deep. So after marking that, you're just going to mark it if it's on the person, the design you want. And if you notice, most times at the back also you can create a high-low basque, but since I'm not seeing my back, I'm just going to create only for the front. So what I'll do next is I'll extend that upwards this way and draw a slant line. So coming down to this place, I'm still going to measure what I have. So if you notice on Instagram reels, you see a lot of people when they wear the dress and they measure and cut out. So this is what you're doing exactly. You can also use this method for your normal basque. So after creating the design you like, you're just going to cut out, but make sure your side meets your side and your skirt is at the center point. Is very necessary. So after that, what I'm just going to do is to take my scissors and I'm going to cut it off. So watch me as I do that. You can go ahead to do a slanty style. Whatever you have in your mind, just be creative. So I'm just going to cut off that area that I marked. So watch me as I do that. And it's advisable for another person to help you do this because it will be difficult for you to achieve exactly the shape or whatever effect you want on the high-low basque. So I'm just going to try my possible best to just mark something simple and not too difficult. So after you're done, this is what you're going to have. So the next step you're going to take right now is just to pin this against your dress. So you can go ahead to create a basque at your back, but I can't do that because I'm not seeing my back. So what you're going to do is you're going to fold it in this way. So there are two methods of attaching this. The method of top stitching it on it, or you're just going to go ahead to pin it down and sew it on the sewing machine, just like you're attaching the lower part of your dress to the upper part. So I'm just going to use a pin to hold it down. If it's your first time sewing a high-low basque, it's advisable to just stop stitch it and use trimmings to cover it up because it might be a bit tricky for you to sew. So I'm just going to pin it down and show you what it actually looks like. So I'm done. This is what the dress looks like. So if it's your first time viewing my channel, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up and leave your comments at the comment section.